Welcome back. Joining us now in the Canberra studio for the opposition reaction to tonight's first Rudd Labor budget is the Shadow Treasurer Malcolm Turnbull. Mr Turnbull, thank you for joining us.
Great to be with you both.
And how do you sum up tonight's budget?
Well, this budget does nothing for keeping the cost of living down. It does nothing for petrol prices or grocery prices. It's a high-taxing, high-spending budget. It's an inflationary budget, and already respected economic commentators are saying just that.
But this budget cuts spending by $33 billion.
No, it doesn't. What it does is it cuts some coalition spending and then adds even more Labor spending. Net spending is increased. Now, the surplus is very healthy. That's a tribute to the strength of the economy. Mr Swan can't claim credit for that.
But take next year, for example. Spending is up by, yes, $5 billion, but there's a savings of $7 billion.
No, there's a reduction in spending that is less than that. What Mr Swan does, when he talks about saving, he adds into that his tax increases. That's not saving. Taxing Australians is not saving. Saving is when you spend less than you otherwise were going to. Now, his budget would be cutting net spending, which is what we all thought he was going to do, because he said he was. If you cut $2 billion of Howard government spending and only added $1 billion of Rudd government spending. And in fact, but what he's done is he's cut Howard spending and spent even more on his own account.
But hang on, you were the one saying there's no need for deep spending cuts. Now you're saying he hasn't gone far enough.
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying to you is this Treasurer does not know what he's talking about. What on earth was he doing wandering around the countryside, talking to you, talking to Helen, talking to everyone, saying he was going to make swinging cuts in spending, it'd be a horror budget, pain all round, this will hurt, he said. And in fact, he's increased spending. This is the biggest spending budget in our history.
So if you'd been standing at the dispatch box tonight, would you have gone further, deeper spending cuts?
Look, I can't comment on that because David, really, you've got to go through every line item. The critical thing is spending other people's money has to be done prudently. Inefficient programs or programs that don't work out as well as you thought they would, they should be cut or replaced with others. What Wayne Swan he wasn't talking about saving money for the sake of efficiency. I'm very much in favour of that, always have been, always will be. He was saying he was going to take an across-the-board cut. So throw out good programs. Just say, OK, we can't afford them in order to put downward pressure on inflation. He's done the reverse. He's spent more.
What about taking the family tax benefit and the baby bonus away from those earning $150,000 or more? Good idea?
Well, we're going to have a close look at the implications for the family tax benefit B. That's the one that he's got the $150,000 means test on the household. So we'll look at that. As far as the baby bonus is concerned, you know what our position is. We believe the baby bonus sends a universal social message that is very powerful about children being a social good, the value of childbearing, the value of motherhood. We felt in government it was more powerful if it was universal. Now,
so you'll vote to protect the access of the rich to that.
We'll make a decision together as a party. We'll look at it. I mean, the government's made their call. We'll look at it very carefully. I just say this to you though: this is a very clumsy means test. The way this works is, firstly, you don't get the $5,000 baby bonus in one lump. You get it over 13 fortnights, so it's dribbled out. Well, I think a lot of mothers who have a big costs when the baby arrives would like to get that money the same time as the baby. So that's first observation I'd make. And a large part of Mr Swan's savings are because of delaying the delivery of the money. So just bearing that in mind, it's not just because of the means test. The second thing is, if the family earns $1 more than $75,000 in the 6 months after the birth of the child, they get nothing. Not $4,000, not $3,000, they get nothing. If they earn $75,000 or less, they get the full $5,000 baby bonus. Now that is a very crude means test, and that will wreak a lot of unfairness. And of course, people will then order their affairs so that they earn less money than they otherwise would in order to get it. And that's creating all of the disincentives that we shouldn't be creating with our tax system. So again, it suggests to me that there's been all politics here. He's trying to make a statement, soak the rich, all of that stuff which appeals to Mr Swan, and he hasn't designed this with really understanding what its impact is going to be.
Do you fear politically you'll be seen as the one standing up for the rich, whereas the government is standing up for the battlers?
Look, all of Australians know that the tax cuts that are going to Australians, and they benefit lower and middle income earners particularly, those tax cuts were Peter Costello and John Howard's tax cuts. They were copied,
photocopied. You wanted to give more to the rich.
No, what we said was that the top rate would come down by a couple of percentage points. Labor hasn't walked away from that. They've said they aim to have a top rate of 40% as opposed to 45%, but they've deferred it for a few years into the future. So let's get this straight. If you read the budget paper, they say their aim is to have, in the longer term, a top rate of 40%. So Labor photocopied almost completely identically the Coalition's tax cuts, and then, like a good postman, Wayne Swan delivered them. But, you know, postmen shouldn't take credit for other people's work.
But again, politically, are you worried about being seen as the one standing up for the rich?
Look, I'm not worried about standing up for families. I'm not worried for standing up for social justice. You've got to take a view about the nature of the baby bonus. Look, I'm in favour of means testing. I don't believe that benefits which are designed to remedy low incomes or no incomes should be anything other than means tests. The means tests have got to be designed intelligently, and so they don't create disincentives, and there's no point having a means test if the cost is greater than what you'd save, obviously. The baby bonus was a different case. We had a very specific policy. Australia's birth rate was declining. It was a serious problem. The Howard government decided to make a powerful statement about the importance of motherhood, about the importance of childbearing, that children are a social good, and that universal benefit was part of it. Now, Labor doesn't have that same commitment, to families. They see this as a different type of benefit, so that's why they've taken a different approach.
Just finally, the new investment funds that the Treasurer announced tonight, Building Australia Fund, education, health, what do you make of those?
Well, look, I'm all in favour of building Australia and infrastructure. I mean, I was the water minister that brought in the $10 billion National Plan for Water Security that John Howard announced last year, the largest investment in water in our history, that saw the federal government take over water planning in the Murray-Darling Basin. So I'm very committed to investing money in infrastructure. But what I'm astonished by is the lack of detail. In the budget papers, Wayne Swan says $20 billion to go into an infrastructure fund. But I can't tell you what type of infrastructure. I can't tell you what sort of economic return is going to be
decided by experts.
Yes, but David, in the real world, you go out there and you say, give me, Helen knows this as a business journalist, go out there and say, I want billions of dollars for an infrastructure fund, but I'm not going to tell you what economic return I'm going to be seeking, what type of infrastructure, what arrangements. He's basically written a blank cheque to himself. Now, whether that money is well spent or not, we've got no way of knowing at this stage. It's just he's just taken a pile of money, put it into an account, and written infrastructure on it, details to come later. And those details should have been in the budget tonight. It's your money and my money. It's all of our money, and we're entitled to know what Mr. Swan's going to do with it.
Shadow Treasurer Malcolm Turnbull, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, David.
Tonight.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll be looking more at the politics on the Sky News channel, on the Business channel also, looking more at the business implications of tonight's budget.